Kristin, and you're listening to Podcast and Amplify, a podcast for women entrepreneurs who want to amplify their voice and brand through podcasting and grow a wildly successful business. I'm the executive producer and host of 2 shows and an entrepreneur, and I love helping women grow their visibility, mindset, and business to the next level. Each week, I share tips on how to launch and leverage your podcast, and I'm bringing on the very best business leaders to give you advice on how to build your business empire. Let's amplify your voice and business. Hey there, welcome back to the show. I'm Kristin, your host, and last week we talked about how to be a great podcast guest. If you haven't listened to that show yet, I shared a lot of tips around how to find the right podcasts, how to pitch yourself, how to just show up in a way that makes things really easy for the podcast host. So on today's show, I'm talking about how to leverage your appearance as a podcast guest. Because after you've landed your guest spot, it's really important to make the most of the interview, both during and after the episode. So first, let's talk about during the interview. What do you want to do during the interview to make the most of your guest appearance on the podcast? So first, you want to have a powerful call to action. So if you have a Facebook group that you want people to join, or there's a newsletter that you want them to subscribe to, or you have a specific offer you're promoting at that time, that is your call to action to join your community, and you want to make sure to plug that. You also want to make sure that you're sharing any freebie you have, any lead magnet like a webinar or a workshop. You could also consider creating a special offer for the specific audience of the podcast that you're on. You can offer a discount, or you can give them a unique code so you can track the people who came to your show through that podcast and see what kind of success you had by being on that particular episode. Or you can have a deal for, say, the first 5 people who sign up for your download. So there's just a few options. Now, during the interview, you also want to talk about why you created what you created. You want to share your personal story and then link it back to how any of your resources will help the audience solve a pain point. So that's really key, is to share your story and to show people how you can help solve their problems. Okay, so now you want to make sure that you bring a really great energy while you're being interviewed. You want to get people excited about what it is that you're talking about, ways that they can work with you, the information that you're offering. Another possibility for leveraging your podcast appearance is timing your appearance around, say, a book launch or a new service or a new product. And if you know the podcast host really well, or if they seem open to it, you can discuss with them opportunities for collaborating on promoting your service or your product. That's something that you definitely want to do with someone that you have a good relationship with, but it's a possibility and available to you if you have a good relationship with the podcast host. And it's great to get their buy-in and their support for something like that, because you're really tapping into the trust that they have with their audience. And that is the best way to connect with people and make them want to buy from you. And so another really important thing to think about is having a clear place to send people. So you want to make sure that your website address is very clear, or if you're sending them to your Instagram account, that your handle is very clear. If it's complicated to spell it out for them. It might take a little time or feel weird, but you want to make sure that they can find you. They know exactly what to type in to look you up on the internet. Okay, so my last tip for leveraging your podcast guest experience while you're on the show is practice your pitch. You really want to practice your 2 to 3 sentence pitch that tells people what you can do for them, how they can find out more about you, so that you can deliver it in a way that sounds organic and it won't feel spammy. So just make sure you practice your pitch that you will say at the end of the show. Typically, the host will ask you, how can people reach out to you, or how can people work with you? And you want to be able to deliver this pitch, this 2 to 3 sentence pitch seamlessly. Okay, so now let's get into some tips for how to leverage your appearance once the episode is done, it's going live, and this is really one of the best things that you can do for yourself and your podcast host is to really just help promote the episode. Your host will definitely appreciate you helping to get some visibility on the episode, help promote it. Here are a few things you can do after the interview. Hey Explorers, we'll get back to the show in just a moment, but I wanted to take just a few seconds to invite you to the free workshop that I created. It's called The 3 Secrets to Starting Your Successful Podcast. Now it's all about helping you to start your dream podcast so that you can share your voice and expand your business. If you want to join, just go to exploreinu.com. It's totally free. All right, friend, back to the show. So you want to create some buzz before the episode airs. You can post about your interview the day of, knowing that it's not going to go live for several weeks or several months. And just to kind of put a little teaser out there, you can start to mention it before, a week before or 2 weeks before, that, hey, this episode's coming out. I'm excited to share it. You can also share the episode with your email list. That's very important. And that's something that I ask my guests to do because the email list is a very valuable group of people to get the episode in front of. So you want to share it with your email list because those are your most loyal fans. And of course, you want to share the episode on social media by posting and reposting or sharing a quote and really highlighting that episode and why you're excited for people to listen to it. You can also include a link on your own website back to the episode that you're on. That would be great for traffic. And another way to leverage your appearance after you've been a guest is if you have a podcast, to invite your guest to come on your show, to do a podcast swap. So if it makes sense, invite your guest to come on your show. It shows that you trust the podcast host and they trust you and that they value your content and vice versa. So it's a really great way to just continue that relationship and to keep it going. Okay, so the last thing is to keep in touch with the podcast host who had you on their show. You want to look for other opportunities to collaborate and to support each other. So outside of a podcast swap, you could do an Instagram live together. I've done that with one of my guests. We later did a live. I've been on my guests' podcast after they've been on my show. And I definitely try to continue to promote their episodes and to follow them and listen to anyone that I've been on. Once they're in my circle and in my community, I really try to continue to support them. And that's just a great way to be out in the entrepreneur space, is continue to support people who have given you a platform or who you felt connected to or who you just love what they're doing, is to just continue to support them in different ways and look for those opportunities. So that's it. Those are my tips for how to leverage your podcast appearance, both during the show and after the show. So I hope you found this episode helpful. And if you did, please share it with at least one person in your circle, in your community who is interested in being on a podcast and you think would find this valuable. It's a great way to help me grow my community and to give something valuable to someone in your community. So thanks again for listening to the show, and I'll see you next time. If you loved today's episode, please subscribe so you don't miss a show. And rating and reviewing this podcast is the best way to help support us. Always remember, your voice and what you have to offer is needed in the world. Until next week, take care.